So we'll first look at how the math section on the SAT looks like. Now, section 3 and section 4 is where our math is going to show up. I've shared the screen and I hope it's visible to everybody. Just in case it isn't, let me know, please. All right. So section 3 and section 4 is where our math is going to show up. Section 3 is going to be the no calculator section. So calculator is not permitted on this section. Section 4 is going to be our calculator section. Now, when I say calculator section, I do not mean that just because a question falls in the calculator section, you need to fall back on your calculator. No, there are a lot of conceptual questions for which, you just need to reason out a lot of times, and you don't need to go back to a calculator. And if you ask me, 40% of the questions that are going to show up on the calculator section will not want you to pick up your calculator right away. Okay, now the permitted calculator on the SAT is TI-83 or TI-84. Now, both of these calculators are graphing calculators. Okay, just in case anybody wishes to use a graphing calculator, my suggestion is that you procure one right away. Okay, that's because this is not going to be easy for you to get comfortable with the keys and the functions. When I need to graph a function, then sometimes it takes a series of steps or a series of keys to get the final graph. So you are not going to be able to do it overnight. If you procure it in the last week before the exam, you will actually feel that you are feeling handicapped with the calculator. So for that reason, if we need to get a graphing calculator, we need to get one right away. Having said that, there is no need on the SAT to have a graphing calculator. Most of the students who prepare well get an 800 on 800 on the math section without a graphing calculator. As we take up our classes one by one, we are going to see how we can graph an equation without the help of a graphing calculator. So this is something that's really not mandatory. I will also share a list of the prescribed calculators that are allowed on the SAT. All right, on the group on WhatsApp. Okay. Now, yeah, let's look at our section 3 first. So for our section 3, total number of questions that we are going to see here are going to be 20 in all, split up between 1 to 15 multiple choice questions. So the first 15 questions are going to be multiple choice, where we get 4 options, A, B, C, D. Question number 16 to 20 are going to be a grid-in questions. This is a grid-in bar. For question number 16 to 20, we are not going to have any A, B, C, D options. So either we know it or we don't know it. Okay, so there is no chance of doing a guesswork. No, guesswork doesn't work. Just in case we are guessing for the multiple choice questions, in case we do not know, I hope you do know all of them, but in case you don't, you won't get penalized if you are marking an incorrect answer. So there is no negative marking for an incorrect answer on the SAT. 16 to 20 will be a grid-in questions. We are going to do a lot of questions with the grid-in structure, and we will see how we need to approach them. Let's say my answer on a grid-in is 10. So I need to write 1 and 0, 1 character each on each column. So 1 gets bubbled in wherever I've written a 1, and 0 gets bubbled in wherever I've written a 0. So that's how I grid in an answer. I could start gridding in from the extreme left or ending to the extreme right. If I grid in 10 like this is also absolutely acceptable. 1 over here and 0 over here. So any of the two patterns are acceptable. We can also grid in decimal answers as well as fractions. We are going to look at each of these as we move along. Now, after the no calculator section, we are going to have a 5-minute refreshment break in which you can just rest on your seat. You can have a chat with the people around if you wish to. You can just rest your head on the desk, or you can even use the washroom. You can eat a light snack, whatever you want in those 5 minutes. So that's about the break. Moving into the calculator section, which is going to be section 4, immediately after a no calculator section. 55 minutes over here for 38 questions. Okay, so on our earlier section, section 3, we have 25 minutes for 20 questions. And in section 4, we have 55 minutes for 38 questions. Now, these 38 questions are once again going to be split up between the multiple choice questions and the credence. 1 to 30 will be a multiple choice questions. Question numbers 31 to 38 will follow the credence structure. Don't go by this per minute question thing. No, that's just a simple mathematics. 25 upon 20 gives me 1.25, or 55 upon 38 gives me 1.4. I don't want you to go by this rule. There's a reason I don't want you to go by this rule. The reason is that the first few questions that show up on both the sections are easy. Okay, so let's say the first few questions are level easy. The ones that show up in the middle are medium difficulty, and the ones that show up towards the end are level hard. Some of these easy questions can be read, interpreted, and answered in 20 seconds. Yes, you heard it right. It can be done in 20 seconds. So why should I spend 1.25 minutes on these easy questions? The idea is to conserve as much time as possible, because there could be harder questions which could demand 2 to 3 minutes of your time, in which case this timeline is not going to help us at all. So we need to rush through both the sections, and if we are lucky, if we have some time in hand, which most of the students usually do if they have practiced very well, then you can go back and revise, go through your answers, ensure that you've bubbled in correctly. We should not have a situation where we have 1A, 2C, 3D, for example, 4A, 5A, and we've marked two of, we've bubbled in 3C, 4D, 5A, for example. That also happens. So we need to ensure that that is not the situation. All right. So that's about the structure of our exam.